Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Site for Wight, welcome you to the early talking news on Thursday the 14th of April. Obviously, we've got the long Easter weekend ahead of us and we're all hoping that the sun will come out. This said, I believed the sun had come out this morning when I left home at 7:30, 20 minutes north of Portsmouth, with a summer's dress on with short sleeves and bare legs. On arrival at Southsea, I wished I had put woolly tights, 2 jumpers and a coat on. The weather certainly could change in just a short 20-minute drive. But it has cheered up today, and Millbrook House is alive with the voices of our mix and mingle ladies singing with the piano accompanist. They really are having a very lovely time, and they're all wearing the Easter bonnets which they made last week and about to enjoy a fish and chip lunch. Also this week, we have sent out a mini newsletter to members detailing a few up-and-coming activities. We know that we normally send out the newsletter in April, but due to Wight Sense joining us and lots of activities around that, we decided to delay the April newsletter to May. So we've sent out a mini newsletter to everybody which details the activities that are going on. This includes swimming each week and, of course, our Jubilee party on the 26th of May. So save the date. We do only have 80 places, so do please apply early to join us on the 26th. Also included in the activities is horse riding on the 9th of May and the Millbrook Milers, which is a shorter stroll for those who feel that the Striders Walk, which is usually 3 to 5 miles, isn't for them. The Millbrook Milers is around 1 to 1.5 miles on flat ground, and you will enjoy cake and coffee at the end. So please do read our mini newsletter and we look forward to seeing everybody after Easter. Thank you, Lisa, CEO, Site for Wight.
Man from Ryde arrested on suspicion of rape following Newport High Street incident. From the Isle of Wight radio read by Lee. A 36-year-old man from Ryde has been arrested following reports of an alleged rape in Newport High Street early Saturday morning. A spokesman for Hampshire Constabulary said, "We are investigating a report of a rape on a woman in her 20s in Newport High Street around 2:45 a.m. today, April the 9th. Officers have arrested a 36-year-old man from Ryde on suspicion of rape. He remains in custody at this time and our inquiries are ongoing." This has since been updated. The arrested man has been released with no further action. A spokesman for Hampshire Constabulary said, "Officers have carried out inquiries today and no offences have been identified. The man arrested has been released with no further action."
This is an article from On the Wight, read by Sue. St Helens residents shocked to find precept rise of 21.5% instead of 3.4%. The error was complex to unpick, said the chair of St Helens Parish Council, but it would be remedied. An error in St Helens has seen the village tax bills rise 21.5% instead of the approved 3.4%, causing concern for residents. The St Helens Parish Council apologised for the mistake and the time it took to rectify the issue at its meeting on Monday. However, it said it had to be absolutely sure of the situation before acting. It had received emails of a threatening tone calling for the resignation of the parish council. Councillor Jonathan Bacon, chair of St Helens Parish Council, said the emails were inappropriate and unnecessary. The accidental increase meant, for the average B and D taxpayer, the part of the council tax that funds the parish council, increased by £12.57 a year. It took the total precept for a Band D St Helens resident to £70.92 a year, up from £58.35 the year before. A 3.4% increase, as approved by the parish council in February as an overall small percentage increase, would have seen bills rise by around £2 a year for a B and D band resident. The mistake, the parish council says, was not noticed until bills landed on the doorsteps of residents earlier this month. Reacting to the increase, one resident said villagers were going to be financially struggling this year and not everybody had the money available. Explaining the increase, Councillor Bacon said that Isle of Wight Council had been sent the wrong figure to base council tax bills on. The Isle of Wight Council received the Parish Council's planned total spend figure for the year, instead of what it was asking for as a precept from residents, which would go towards funding the total spend figure. Councillor Bacon said unpicking the error had proved more complicated than hoped due to the strict legislative framework that regulates this area of local government. He said the Isle of Wight Council took the view the precept was properly set and there was no error. But further deliberation determined the approved precept was inconsistent with the billed figures. St Helens residents will now receive revised bills in the next few weeks with the correct precept figures.
This is Chris reading an article from On the Wight. Cowes Floating Bridge. No agreement yet on multi-million-pound settlement. With mediation ongoing, the gap between settlement figures agreed by the council, the designer and builder of Floating Bridge 6, has been significantly narrowed, but no final agreement has yet been reached. Talks about the Isle of Wight Council getting its money back from the troubled multi-million-pound Cowes Floating Bridge 6, FB6, have continued and seem to be heading towards a resolution. Following an unsuccessful meeting in London last month, where all parties failed to reach an agreement, the authority has been continuing talks with the mediator. FB6 has been plagued with problems, malfunctions and breakdowns since it was installed on the River Medina in 2017, and the authority has been trying to get back some of the money it has spent and lost along the way. While the sum could not be disclosed, the council is looking for a multi-million-pound payout from the designers, BCTQ, and builders, Mainstay Marine, of FB6. The reason a settlement could not be reached in March, Councillor Phil Jordan, the Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Transport, said at the time was the difference in figures between what the council wanted and what it was being offered. The difference, Councillor Jordan said, was in the millions. In an interim update given at the authority's Corporate Scrutiny Committee on Tuesday, Councillor Jordan said mediation was not limited to one day, but has been ongoing since March through a mediator working with all parties. Councillor Jordan said the gap between the figures had been significantly narrowed, but no final agreement had been reached. There was hope, though, that a resolution could be made without having to go to court. As reported by News on the Wight previously, the Cowes to East Cowes crossing was due to be back in action on Wednesday, but the return has now been pushed back until the 23rd of April. Speaking after the meeting, Councillor Jordan said the vessel's return was delayed while the authority awaits another inspection from the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, MCA, which will determine if it can be put back into service. In the latest series of unfortunate events for the vessel, when it was being put back into place last week following an MCA inspection in Falmouth, the strong tide pushed FB6 against the sea wall, shattering windows. The windows are set to be replaced, but, as a safety matter, have been boarded up. When asked if the broken windows would cause any problems at the upcoming MCA inspection, Councillor Jordan said no.
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. 2 new Deputy Lieutenants appointed for the Isle of Wight. 2 new Deputy Lieutenants have been appointed to serve on the Isle of Wight. In this formal voluntary role, Richard Priest and Diddy Nicholson will assist the Lord Lieutenant in her work. The appointment is until retirement on their 75th birthday. The Lord Lieutenant of the Isle of Wight, Susie Sheldon, said, I'm delighted to welcome both Richard Priest and Diddy Nicholson to the lieutenancy team, where their in-depth knowledge of their particular sectors will be invaluable to the lieutenancy role on the Isle of Wight. Richard Priest, OBE. Richard was born in Lake and met his wife Jane when Lake Middle School was first opened in 1971. They live in Shanklin and have a son Adam, daughter-in-law Jenny and grandchildren Benjamin and Isabel. From 1995 to 2015, Richard managed the Riverside Centre in Newport, as well as being chair of Medina Housing Association, a school governor, and is actively involved locally and nationally with charities such as Community Action Isle of Wight and ACRE. Richard remains involved with town councils on the island, as well as with Shanklin Voluntary Youth and Community Centre, and his interests include football and cricket, sports writing, and making local history films. The Honorary Mrs. Nicholson. Diddy's family have long been linked to the Isle of Wight, but Diddy was born in Malta and has previously been a freelance travel writer. She came back to the island in 2014 after living abroad for many years. She is married to Edward and has 3 children, Alexander, Zoe and Henrietta. Diddy has a strong background in the charitable sector and is currently a trustee of both the Royal Yacht Squadron Foundation and the Ireland Careers Partnership. She is also a churchwarden of Motterston Church and was, from 2015 to 2020, the chair of governors at Bryston Primary School. She enjoys singing, walking, travel, sailing and lives in Motterston.
Traffic lights will not be installed at Fatal Forest Road Junction. From the Isle of Wight radio, read by Lee. Traffic lights will not be added at a busy Isle of Wight road junction 3 years after a fatal crash involving cars and a bus, the Isle of Wight Council has decided. At a meeting on Tuesday, Councillor Phil Jordan, Cabinet Member for Highways and Infrastructure, said the local authority is eventually looking to acquire land around the junction of Forest Road with White House Road and Betty Haunt Lane to turn it into a staggered junction. Forest Road is also included in the Isle of Wight Council's speed review, and there is a possibility its 50-mile-an-hour limit may be adjusted. In January 2021, County Hall considered ways to improve road safety at the crossroads near Newport, but ruled out lights. That decision came under scrutiny following the change of leadership in May 2021. In April 2019, 64-year-old island woman Yvonne Copland was tragically killed. 3 family members were seriously injured and people on a double-decker bus were hurt in a crash. In July 2020, the driver of a second car, Yashmi Ravi Kumar, then aged 20 from Essex, was sent to a Young Offenders Institute after admitting charges of causing death and serious injury by dangerous driving. Her sentence was increased in September 2020. A petition calling for traffic lights at the junction, which also joins Betty Haunt Lane, gained nearly 7,000 signatures. Instead, the Isle of Wight Council opted to realign a hedge, more signs, and to install other road safety measures like an anti-skid road surface. Anti-skid work was completed in October 2021. At the Corporate Scrutiny Committee meeting, Councillor Jordan said installing traffic lights would cost around £500,000 and said they were not always the best safety solution. Concerns were raised about queuing at red lights in different levels of visibility, and the meeting heard traffic lights can, in certain circumstances, increase the level of danger and the likelihood of rear-end shunts. In November 2020, a report by roads contractor Island Roads looked at the feasibility of different options for the junction, including traffic lights and a roundabout. Forest Road is one of the busiest roads on the island and is the main route from Newport to West Wight. It is thought to be used by 10,000 vehicles a day and remains on the top 10 of the Isle of Wight Council Highways Safety Intervention List.
Hello, this is an article read by Sue from the Island Echo. Former Seaview Post Office looks set to be turned into a holiday let. An empty Seaview salon could be given a makeover as plans are unveiled to turn it into a holiday let. The Pier Road shop used to be the town's post office, but after it closed in 2015, the premises was taken over by the salon. The beauty salon has been closed and empty since January 2020, and there have been unsuccessful attempts to sell the site as a commercial business. Plans have now been submitted to the Isle of Wight Council by Mr M. Souter to transform the shop into a holiday let, with part of the building demolished and the front altered. Planning agent on behalf of the developer, John Gosling, said in documents the let would be a good quality addition to the tourist accommodation in the popular area. Mr Gosling said through its guests it will support the shops and services in Seaview. The proposed alteration on the front would be painted white in keeping with other properties on Pier Road. So far, 4 supportive comments have been made on the plans, with one saying it would greatly improve the appearance of the building, which has become an eyesore since it shut. Another said they would like to see more shops, but after years of having a blank space on the road, it has to move on. You can view the plans 22/00607 FUL on the Council's Planning Register. Comments can be submitted until the 10th of May.
This is Chris, reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Isle of Wight Council doubles overnight parking charges. Changes to the overnight pay and display parking charge are being rolled out across the island this month. Over the next 3 weeks, the Isle of Wight Council will be updating signs and ticket machine software to accommodate changes, which will see overnight parking charges adjusted until the October the 31st. The overnight charges will be £2 until that date, but will revert to £1 from November the 1st, 2022 to the 31st of March 2023. Motorists are advised to check the tariff board or ticket machine signage, as these will be changed to indicate overnight charging has started. It is estimated changes to on and off-street overnight parking charges will generate around £80,000 to help fund other essential council services. The initial introduction of a nighttime fee was introduced in 2019. The council is reminding residents who live within 200 metres of a pay and display car park that they can purchase a discounted permit to park there for £198 per year, which equates to around £3.80 per week.
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. Cowes Classics Day invites classic car and motorboat owners. Cowes Classics Day on Sunday the 26th of June 2022 will showcase treasures of the past with a stunning collection of classic cars and beautiful historic motorboats. Visitors will be able to view the exhibits free of charge in front of Cowes' famous yacht clubs on the parade and adjacent pontoons at Cowes. Owners are warmly invited to polish up their classic cars and motorboats and bring them along to join in the fun. Cowes Classics Day is part of Cowes Classics Week, in which over 200 yachts are expected to race in the waters off Cowes over the following 5 days. With the spectacle of the world-famous Round the Island race starting and finishing off Cowes on Saturday the 25th of June, there are many reasons to head along. Exhibits will include up to 65 classic cars and an assortment of historic motorboats, including the beautiful motor yacht Lillian. Owners of cars they consider classics are encouraged to enter at www.cowsclassicsweek.org/classic-cars. The Royal London Yacht Club, organisers of the event, will provide exhibitors with a cream tea, drinks reception, dining options and discounted ferry tickets, courtesy of generous supporters Red Funnel. For more information on Cowes Classics Day, visit www.cowsclassicsweek.org/classicsday.
Bonbons, anyone? New sweetie shop opens in the heart of Shanklin from the Island Echo, read by Lee. A traditional confectioner, appropriately named Candies, has opened its doors in Shanklin. The locally owned sweetie shop is located in the former party shop premises at Falcon Cross, next to Shanklin Library. Standing out with its candy floss pink frontage, the shop is stocked with over 150 jars filled with favourite childhood classics from the past 5 decades, with a large tuck shop featured at the back of the store. As well as pick and mix sweets, customers can stock up and treat the family to a selection of goodies including chocolate, toffees, soft drinks and milkshakes. The store also aims to give tourists a taste of the island and will soon sell a selection of Isle of Wight made products including homemade cakes, ice cream and fudge, as well as traditional seaside souvenirs. The owner, Matt, who started a sweet delivery service during lockdown, explains why he decided to open in Shanklin. He says, "I had always dreamt of opening a proper old-fashioned sweet shop, so when I noticed the shop was to let back in January, I decided to take the plunge and start this new business, and people love it. The shop has always meant to be a sweet shop, and it just works." A number of jobs have been created with a small team of islanders running the shop between 11 and 5:30 daily.
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Sue. Number of empty Isle of Wight school spaces revealed. More than 2,300 school spaces were empty on the Isle of Wight last year, latest government figures have revealed. In the recent release of the annual school capacity survey, 38 of the island schools had space for more pupils. In total, 12.6% of spaces, or 2,367 school pupils. 1,195 in primary and 1,172 in secondary were unfilled. Schools are allocated a certain amount of pupils they can cater for and then given funding accordingly. The 7 island schools with the highest amounts of unfulfilled places: Chillerton and Rookley Primary, 44 of 78 spaces, 56%. Bryston C of E Primary, 92 of 207 spaces, 44%. Oakfield C of E Primary, 165 of 420 spaces, 39%. St Francis Catholic and C of E Primary, 90 of 315 spaces, 28.5%. Newport C of E, 110 of 405 spaces, 27%. Cowes Enterprise College, 374 of 1,211 spaces, 23.6%. Wroxall Primary, 38 of 168 spaces. The future of Chillerton and Rookley Primary School is currently hanging in the balance with the Isle of Wight Council once again, deliberating the best course of action for the school. Since the figures have been recorded, Cowes Enterprise College has reduced the number of pupils it accepts in a year. It reduced the yearly intake of students by 60 down to 210. There are 7 schools, all primaries, either at or over capacity in 2021. At the top of that list, with an extra 35% of pupils enrolled over its capacity, is Yarmouth C of E Primary School, which recently welcomed pupils from the now closed All Saints C of E Primary in Freshwater. According to government statistics, Yarmouth Primary should only have 105 pupils enrolled at the school, but in the latest count had 142 children attending, 37 extra. A new school is being built for Yarmouth on the All Saints site. The 7 island primary schools over or at capacity are Yarmouth C of E Primary, 37 children over capacity; St Saviour's Catholic Primary, 12 children over capacity; Brading C of E Primary, 7 over capacity; Lanes End Primary, 15 children over capacity; Newchurch Primary, 5 children over capacity; Dover Park Primary, 3 children over capacity; Knighton Primary School at capacity. The number of pupils has stayed roughly the same, with 8,836 children in primary school in 2021, compared to 8,834 in 1819. Pupil figures at secondary school have increased by nearly 50 from 7,528 in 1819 to 7,577 in 2021.
This is Chris, reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. More delays to Isle of Wight Council's new £765,000 website. The launch of the Isle of Wight Council's new £765,000 website has been delayed after already being plagued with COVID-related setbacks. While progress has been made on the website and the project moves into the third phase, it was already 18 months behind schedule. The task of building the new website started in 2020, and just 3 months in, the COVID pandemic struck. The aim of launching a development, or beta, site by September 2020 was then no longer feasible, as the project team was redirected to help the pandemic response. Now, with the project up and going again, the beta site has been launched with councillors shown the new site, but the go-live date to the general public has been delayed due to issues outside the project's control. It was hoped it would be rolled out this month, but speaking at the Corporate Scrutiny Committee on Tuesday, Claire Shand, the Council's Corporate Services Director, said the decision was made to postpone it. One of the reasons was the recent major firewall upgrade, which saw the Council's current website and other IT systems stop working last weekend. Much preparation work was needed for that, Ms. Shand said, so all the information on the systems was kept secure, particularly in light of an increase in cyber security threats to local authorities. The reason for the delay was due to the Council's waste contractor, Amy, changing which company acts as its contact centre and the resulting clash in timescales. Feedback from the beta site testing was said to be very promising. Ms. Shand told the committee she was feeling positive about the project and hoped it would go from strength to strength, continuously improving the site as feedback from the public is received.
This is Brian reading an item from Isle of Wight Radio. Ryde Harbour renamed Ryde Marina after sale goes through. Ryde Town Council has continued its recent spending spree by adding Ryde Harbour to its property portfolio. RTC finalised the takeover of the marina from the Isle of Wight Council on Friday the 1st of April. Michael Lilly, Mayor of Ryde, added, "When the opportunity to purchase Ryde Harbour was presented to councillors, we knew it was one that was too good to be ignored. Ryde Town Council are dedicated to improving the facilities of Ryde, and this is a wonderful example of leading from the front. It is a huge project for us and one that we are very excited by. The investment in Ryde is very real, and I look forward to all of the new facilities coming online. The renamed Ryde Marina will be undergoing a sustained programme of changes to give it a much needed facelift. This has started with the replacement of the existing Harbour office with a new temporary marina office, and will see new pontoons being laid out along with electricity, Wi-Fi, CCTV, new website and booking system, and refurbishment of the hospitality suite. The longer-term business plan calls for a relocation of the marina office and incorporated hospitality suite, with an increase in the number of visitor berths to capitalise on the short-term visitors who will be encouraged. Lisa Dyer, Ryde Town Council clerk, said, "We, along with the officers at the Isle of Wight Council, have worked incredibly hard behind the scenes over the last 2 years to make this vision a reality. It is a terrific demonstration of two organisations working in partnership to achieve a successful outcome." Jake Babington, Ryde Town Council's Beachfront Operations Manager, said, "This is an exciting time for Ryde Esplanade, with so many positive changes happening this year. We hope that Ryde Marina will soon become a shining example of what can be achieved here by the sea. We have lots of improvement plans for the marina, so why not pop down and ask us or see for yourself?" It is the latest acquisition from RTC following the purchase of St Thomas's Church. Councillors also voted to purchase Ryde Town Hall. For more information about Ryde Marina, you can visit www.rydetowncouncil.gov.uk.
Shanklin raises funds for town defibrillator in just 10 days from the Islander Echo, read by Lee. A fundraising campaign to install a defibrillator at the Royal British Legion Shanklin Club in Collingwood Road has raised over the £1,750 required in just 10 days. The original suggestion for installing the public access defibrillator at the club came from the Royal British Legion Shanklin member Chrissy Brodie. Shanklin Town Council and Shanklin Rotary Club contributed £1,000 and £250 respectively, and Legion bar person Sean Rogers completed a 32-mile sponsored walk, raising a further £935. Domino's Pizza also generously donated £250. Mark Watson, who managed the campaign, said, "From the original suggestion, the pandemic had delayed the project by 2 years. As soon as the campaign was started, the response was amazing. The donations came in quickly, and we were able to place the order with the Isle of Wight Ambulance Service. The defibrillator is part of the National Defibrillator Network. The circuit, meaning the cabinet door lock code, can be obtained by calling 999. This life-saving piece of equipment is available 24/7 for all the people of Shanklin. Surplus monies raised will be donated to the Poppy Appeal, and I would like to thank everyone who has helped get this fantastic project to where it is now."
This is an article from Island Echo, read by Sue. Hundreds of Isle of Wight heroes gather at Key Arts Newport. Isle of Wight Heroes Con raised thousands of pounds for YMCA, Young Carers Isle of Wight, at Key Arts Newport on Sunday the 10th of April. The main feature for the event, organised by comic and collectibles shop heroes, was a virtual interview and live audience, questions and answers with comic book creator Todd McFarlane, best known as the artist for the Amazing Spider-Man and Spawn. The event was particularly enjoyed by blind guest Aaron Danvers Jukes, who met his hero, the Predator, at the event. Aaron said, Cosplay is very important to me as I can feel materials and compare heights. I first met the Predator in 2014 and they arranged another meeting with him as a surprise for me at Isle of Wight Heroes Con. It was the best part of the event. Manager of Heroes Rob Mead said, "I've been blown away by the support for Isle of Wight Heroes Con. Everyone has jumped in to help. The virtual guests have been fantastic and all of them were willing to give their time and send us things to sell. It's been a huge success. We didn't know how many people would come and we've been pleasantly surprised by the interest. It's the first one we've organised and we'd like to do an even bigger event next year." All the money raised by Isle of Wight Heroes Con will stay on the island as it will be donated to the YMCA Young Carers charity, which supports young people aged 5 to 18 who have to look after their parents. The reasons for youngsters having to care for their mothers and fathers vary. It may be because of mental or physical health problems, addictions or disabilities. Lauren Fry, who is a support worker for young carers on the Isle of Wight, said, "We have 330 young carers on our books at the moment and we get referrals every week. The Young Carers charity allow these youngsters to have the opportunity to do things outside the home, which is particularly important in the holidays. Young carers sometimes do not get the opportunity to do things others of their age group take for granted, such as going to the cinema."
This is Chris, reading an article from the Island Echo. Wildlife Trust addresses farmers' concerns over Isle of Wight beaver introduction. More than 70 farmers and landowners attended a meeting organised by the NFU, National Farmers Union, about beaver introduction on Tuesday the 5th of April. The meeting took place at the Chequers Inn near Rookley and helped farmers to understand the impact that a beaver introduction by Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust, HIWWT, could have on the farmed landscape of the Isle of Wight, should it be licensed. The Wildlife Trust's beaver officer outlined how beaver impacts could be managed, with measures including electric fencing of crops, sandpaper paint or galvanised fencing to protect trees, removal of trees and other sources of food from certain areas to discourage beaver establishment, reinforcement of riverbanks with stone or galvanised mesh to discourage burrowing. Farmers from the Tay catchment in Scotland, where there are more than 1,000 beavers, and farmers from the Stour in Kent joined the meeting virtually, sharing their experiences of living with wild populations of beavers. The meeting was also addressed by the NFU's National Advisor on Species Reintroductions. Those attending the meeting learned of significant damage to low-lying arable land, like that in Arraton Valley, caused by the burrowing and damming activities of beaver, graphically illustrated by photographic evidence. Damage to public access routes was highlighted. Concerns were raised about where responsibility and culpability for injury would fall if damage by beavers led to the collapse of footpaths or bridleways on a farmer's land. A further cost someone must take responsibility for. Isle of Wight NFU Chair Robin Munt of Parkwater Farm, Newport, said, "Should a licence be granted, there would need to be intense monitoring of beaver activity by HIWWT within the entire Eastern Yar catchment. What remains unclear is who would cover the cost of these management options in the long term. HIWWT must demonstrate its ability to take responsibility for such costs during the 5-year or 10-year licence period. However, beyond that, being a charitable organisation, it can only make assurances and cannot commit to financial responsibility in perpetuity if beavers were to spread across the island. The NFU is lobbying for the managers of beaver projects to take full responsibility for the cost of such projects in the long term. This would include the costs of an exit strategy should unmanageable conflicts arise. Importantly, the NFU is asking government to ensure that every beaver project establishes a steering group with farmer representation within each steering group. We will be looking for the same assurances around licence being drawn up for the Island Beaver project.
Good morning, we're here to read the County Press. This is Lynn.
And this is Kate. Hello. Before we start the second part of the Talking News, here is this week's Society's news. There is no swimming this week due to the school Easter holidays and will resume next Monday, the 25th of April. The group are looking for more members to join them at Medina Leisure Centre every Monday between 1:30 and 2:30 p.m. Coffee and chat is on every Wednesday at Millbrook House from 10 a.m. to 11:30. It's only £1 for cake and coffee. Please come along for a chat, and members of staff will be there for any assistance with equipment and information. Our Mix and Mingle group is on a Thursday at Millbrook House between 10:30 and 2 p.m. Transport is available but on a limited basis. Our Easter chicks have now all flown the nest, and we would like to say a massive thank you to all our wonderful volunteers, members and friends who knitted the chicks this year. It is very much appreciated, so listen out for our next project. The charity has a fundraising pudding and quiz night on the 29th of April here at Millbrook House. There's a maximum of 4 people per team. The charge is £5 per person. If you would like to enter a team, please call the office. We have a maximum capacity of 10 teams. The charity's holiday break at Warner's is just around the corner, and I hope everyone who has paid has now received the information regarding the break. Any problems, please call Susan. The monthly 10-pin bowling will be next Wednesday the 27th at Ryde Super Bowl at 2 p.m. Please come along to this friendly group and have a go. The cost is only £4 per game. Please call the office to let them know if you will be attending.
A new list of activities has been sent out this week outlining all our current activities available and also the exciting news regarding the charity's Jubilee Street Party on May the 26th. If you would like to attend, please call Susan, but spaces are limited to 80 people, and if numbers exceed, then a ballot will be drawn. Please note the office will be closed until Tuesday at 9 o'clock due to the Easter break, and we wish you all a very happy Easter. This is the first Maundy Thursday since publication that the County Press has not published. Instead, it will be published tomorrow. The Talking News team have assembled, as is customary, at Eastertide on Thursday, and so we have gleaned material from the internet to make up this week's Talking News.
And now we go to letters to the editor. G. Barman of Sandown says he has no faith in nuclear power. I would have more faith in 7 new nuclear power stations if it were not for 4 nuclear safety incidents reported to ministers in 2021 as inspection numbers fall. Incidents included a reactor shutdown in Lancashire and a fire at Sellafield. Given the professional calibre of our current ministers and government, they will probably employ a couple of sixth formers from local schools to run nuclear plants on the weekends and evenings, no doubt from their iPhones, to save money. I wouldn't trust Boris Johnson and this Tory government with a bucket of water if my knickers were on fire, let alone a nuclear power plant.
A disgusting show. Further to the letter printed last week in the Isle of Wight Observer, April the 1st, regarding Reginald H. Hunter's show, in which he ridiculed disabled people, I will add that some years ago I also saw his show in Shanklin Theatre and was aghast to witness that he based most of his show on incest, saying that's what sisters are for, and elaborating with disgusting details. The whole of his show and so-called jokes were about women's role in society being solely for the advantage of men to do as they wish. The show became worse as he drank from a glass, presumably alcohol, and slurred his speech frequently. His language was disgusting, swearing every other word. Presumably his use of the English language is limited by ignorance. Needless to say, I didn't stay for the whole show, but left early feeling sickened. Previous critics have been hounded and demonised for expressing their views, and I don't particularly need that aggravation, so please withhold my address.
And now Mark Dabbs of Walsall talks of memorials to Winston. I was recently visiting the Isle of Wight from Walsall, up here in the Midlands, for a few days to look for memorials to Sir Winston Churchill, using a book titled Winston's Island, lent to me by Randolph Churchill. I managed to find them all except the Allies statue at the Priory Hotel, which I believe is now closed and was damaged when I first saw it. Such a pity. Foremost, I would like to thank all who helped me in my search in Ventnor, Shanklin, Cowes and Calbourne Mill, where I met Paul Murray Smith, who had sculpted the seated figure of Churchill there, and who proved to be as passionate and knowledgeable about Churchill as me. And he talks of a picture he took to show highlights of his journey to our fine island.
Now Vectis View Reflections on Island Life from Tim Addison, promoter of the Sandown Sprint. Back in the 1990s, I worked at Silverstone and was a great fan of the RAC rally. Every November I spent a week following the rally around Scotland, England and Wales, along with thousands of other motor racing fans. You could see the value of motorsport to attract big crowds well outside the summer holiday season, so perfect for the island. I first sketched out some rally stages on the Isle of Wight back in 2001, but in those days it would have required an Act of Parliament to get the roads closed. It was all pretty impractical. When I came back to the island in 2009, things had moved on. New legislation would allow a local authority to grant permission, and this was eventually passed into law in 2017. By this time, I'd already started to put together some new ideas. To be honest, my initial plans were probably too ambitious. I sat down with some key partners, but no one really had a clue what I was talking about. So I contacted Malcolm Smith, chairman of the Isle of Wight Car Club. I'd known Malcolm for many years, and in the 1980s had been a member of the club. I was a terrible driver at various auto tests and a marshal in Parkhurst on its famous Island Stages rally. The club was founded back in the 1940s and has a long history of organising motorsport on the island, and is still a Motorsport UK affiliated club. I introduced the concept of the Sandown Sprint to its committee in November 2018 to a mixed reception. There were obviously risks in a venture like this, but I assured the club that I would take on the financial liability if it could organise the motor racing. That's basically the partnership which developed, and how the Sandown Sprint was run last weekend. The committee took a leap of faith, and I'm grateful to them, and particularly Malcolm, for making it happen. If anyone is interested in getting into motorsport, then I can't think of a better way than joining the Isle of Wight Car Club. Sandown was my preferred choice of venue, as it has a couple of important advantages. Firstly, there are not many people living along the proposed track, and secondly, it has an elevated sea wall, which makes a good spectator enclosure. It's also my hometown, so I suppose there was a bit of bias too. It does have several large visitor attractions, so sitting down with the owners and the town council was our next step. Malcolm and I organised a meeting in January 2019 to explain the idea. To our delight, it was given an enthusiastic thumbs up, so we could now take the idea to the Isle of Wight Council and Island Roads with a view to getting a motor race order issued. This next meeting took place on the rainiest day of the year, and we all retreated from Culver Parade to the nearby Corkheads pub. Again, we had a positive response. The Island Car Centre Sandown Sprint is now one of only a handful of closed road races that have taken place in England. We planned to run 2 weeks before Easter, but lost the 2020 and 2021 dates due to the national lockdowns. There is an awful lot involved, and it couldn't happen without a mountain of support. Volunteer marshals, sponsors, contractors, officials, spectators and competitors made this happen. It's been a long time in the planning, but I hope everyone agrees it was well worth the effort.
Now a viewpoint by Holmesy, One Man Against the World by David Holmes. Where's the banker? Whatever happened to Kevin? Why did they get rid of him? When I opened my first business account at the Midland Bank, which is now HSBC, Kev O'Connor was the assistant manager. A chirpy chappy, he gave me a £3,000 overdraft, setting me on the path to success. 33 years and perhaps £100 million worth of transactions later, I want to tell him I've had enough, that I'm finished with this couldn't care less bank and I'm taking my overdraft elsewhere. 20 days ago, while logged on to internet banking, I used that live chat text box at the bottom of the screen. You're supposed to type in your query, and the person or algorithm at the other end answers, or not, as the case may be. In my case, they decided the question itself indicated a security breach and suspended our internet banking. Well, I do know these things happen. I may even have been reassured that they were alert to fraudsters, but my question, can I accept a payment from overseas, seemed to have two things going for it. Number one, the money was coming, not going. And number two, I'd already passed their strict security checks before asking the question. I tried telephoning, but the line to their Indian call centre is dreadful, and the person at the other end speaks English as a second language. Understanding anything said is challenging, and just to get that far requires endless patience. While you're waiting, up to an hour, an infuriating looped voice repeatedly assures you your call is important to us. No, it is not important to you. If it were, you would employ more people to answer the B with asterisks telephone. That first day, 3 times I tried calling them, and 3 times they cut me off. Naively, I decided going into a branch might be quicker. I assumed they would help me. On arrival at HSBC Newport, the welcoming person, do banks actually employ cashiers anymore, said, "Hello, David." Now that really lifted my spirits. It was a promising start. I'd taken my passport and my driving licence too, so I had hope that help was at hand. They knew who I was. After a short wait, they helped me complete some forms, which they placed in an envelope addressed to themselves, asking me to pop them in the post box opposite. I left the bank shaking my head with the words, "It could take up to 10 days, ringing in my ears. 10 days later, nothing at all had happened, so I called again. This time they said we meant 10 working days. Crestfallen, I waited. Again, on the 10th working day, I got an email which said, "You'll get a letter in 10 days. Yes, that's 4 work weeks for them to re-enable my internet banking. Enraged, I tried going into several mainland branches. Bravely, I tried calling them again. Incredibly, I addressed the people answering as Sir, when really I wanted to call them B***. Nothing worked, and so for 20 days I had no internet banking. Not paying anyone did mean my bank balance grew wonderfully, although I could have posted cheques, I suppose, sent via carrier pigeon. Like all banks, HSBC has closed many of its branches. But worse, the poor souls working in what's left of the network no longer have the ability to solve problems. Kevin was consigned to history years ago. While I waited in Newport branch, a sweet old man shuffled in, optimistically hoping to transfer money to his daughter. They told him he'd have to wait an hour for the privilege. Wherever he is now, Kevin would be unimpressed with what became of his former employer. We all are.
The new Isle of Wight High Sheriff has been appointed in Cowes. At a special ceremony at Northwood House on Monday morning, a new High Sheriff was appointed. Kay Marriott of Cowes took up the role and said her theme for the year would be Inspire to Aspire. Kay was born on the island, educated at Cowes High School and became a qualified nurse in 1978. Highly respected in her profession, she has a BSc Honours in Clinical Practice, is an Associate of the Faculty of Family Planning and Reproductive Health Care and a nurse prescriber. Kay led the Genital Urinary Medicine Department to be one of the first in the country to become an award-winning integrated sexual health service. She later became Head of Nursing and Clinical Director for the then Community Directorate on the island and supported Portsmouth University as an NVQ assessor. These transferable leadership and management skills were then put to good use as Company Secretary for Marriott Design, working with her husband Brian, where she gained extensive business and marketing experience. After 45 years with the NHS, Kay had planned to retire, but has since been involved in numerous COVID-related programmes, most recently the St Mary's Hospital vaccination hub. I feel extremely humbled and privileged to have been chosen to be the island's High Sheriff for the forthcoming year, said Kay. I promise to raise awareness to this important ceremonial role in our community, continuing the High Sheriff's role in crime prevention. Equally, I will be doing all I can to raise the profile of organisations which support my theme within the community. My theme, Inspire to Aspire, aims to highlight the work of people and organisations who dedicate their time to supporting young people at risk and to inspire others to play a part. However, it is not just about young people. The role one person can have in changing the course of our lives cannot be underestimated. We can all be positive role models, give our time volunteering or acknowledging others, and make a difference to the island community in some way, to make it a better place to live and enjoy. Kay will also be promoting the High Sheriff's Trust, a fund which has supported more than 200 island charities, groups and individuals on the island. Donations to the High Sheriff's Trust are distributed to worthy causes, those who make a difference to the island community in some way, that make it a better place to live and enjoy.
Freshwater bus stop verbal abuse sees an Isle of Wight man fined. An Isle of Wight man handed himself in to police after learning he was being sought for a public order offence. David Marsh, of no fixed abode, appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates on Tuesday. The 31-year-old admitted using threatening or abusive words and behaviour likely to cause harassment, alarm or distress in Freshwater on February the 22nd. Prosecutor Anne Smout told the court a witness had been out with her 17-year-old granddaughter at around 4 p.m. She said Marsh and another male had been loud and swearing at each other at a nearby bus stop, and she was alarmed by their behaviour. Ms Smout said the witness reported the matter to police, describing his behaviour as unacceptable and disorderly. The court heard Marsh was last in court back in September 2021, also for a public order offence. Oscar Vincent, defending, said Marsh and his friend had consumed around 4 beers on the day and accepted he would have appeared drunk to others. He said he accepted the nature of his behaviour would have caused some distress, and on hearing the police were looking for them, he voluntarily handed himself in. Marsh was given a 12-month conditional discharge and ordered to pay costs of £85 and a £22 surcharge.
The University of Winchester picks an Isle of Wight student as a new face. An Isle of Wight student has been selected as the new face of the University of Winchester's 2022/23 academic year. Ellen Wood, 21, from Cowes, spent her childhood growing up in Northwood, where she attended both Northwood Primary School and Cowes Enterprise College. After completing her A-levels, Ellen decided to study a degree in childhood studies and is currently in her final year at the University of Winchester with hopes to study for a postgraduate master's degree. Ellen was chosen by the university to become the face of its undergraduate recruitment campaign for 2023. The university commissioned Surrey-based portrait artist Emily Owen Palmer to paint a large portrait of Ellen. Speaking to the county press, Ellen said, "To be offered the opportunity. I couldn't believe it when I got the initial email and the events that have followed since then. It was a real pleasure working with the artist, Emily Owen Palmer, and the team within the university. The painting is featured on the front cover of the student prospectus and is also used for other university advertising, forming the backdrop for events and open days. Eagle-eyed islanders can spot Ellen on the side of Southern Vectis buses as part of the University of Winchester's nationwide advertising campaign. It's an honour and one I feel very privileged and lucky to have been given." Speaking about seeing her image on island buses, Ellen said, "It's a very surreal experience and one I'm still getting used to. But it's lovely for my family and I to see my image being displayed where I've grown up, especially as this is an opportunity I never expected to come my way. It's nice to know that when my final year is completed soon, a part of me will always be at Winchester University."
An Isle of Wight dog is being terrorised by a herring gull who steals her toys. A young herring gull has been terrorising a border terrier puppy in Sandown, stealing her toys and attacking her water bowl. Peg is a 15-week-old border terrier who has lived on St Pete Way in Sandown for 7 weeks with owners Mark and Ellie. The herring gull, called Cedric by a neighbour, a name that caught on within the community, flies down to the property every day, drinks from Peg's water bowl and then flips it over. Peg takes her toys outside with her but often forgets to bring them back inside, giving Cedric the perfect opportunity to swoop down and steal them. The gull has stolen a couple of soft toys and balls and several of Peg's squeaky toys. And the herring gull has been terrorising the pup for a month now. 2 witnesses saw Cedric flying away with one of Peg's toys and watched as he dropped it onto nearby Avenue Road. Recently, Cedric stole a squeaky rubber chicken from Peg, taking flight before dropping the toy on the roof. Wising up to the crafty bird, Peg keeps her toys close to her bed, and if she hears the dreaded name Cedric, her ears perk up. Her owner Mark told the county press, if Cedric sees something in the garden that's colourful, he'll come down and grab it. Peg has started to react to Cedric standing in the window and will go to the patio doors and watch Cedric like a hawk. If you spot some dog toys littered around Avenue Road, you'll know Cedric has struck again and poor Peg has lost another toy.
The Isle of Wight Sports Achievement Awards showcased talent. The creme de la creme of the local sporting community was rewarded with accolades at the 2021 Isle of Wight Sports Achievement Awards Gala on Thursday evening. With most sports thriving on the Isle of Wight and with so many achieving in them, all passionately backed up by dedicated coaches, it was a difficult decision for judges in the run-up to the awards ceremony held at Newport's Medina Theatre. There were many deserved winners and nominees in categories that ranged from making a difference in school sports to marking the achievements of emerging young talents and the support given to clubs and organisations by willing volunteers. Special guest at the awards ceremony was the gold medal winning Olympic sailor Shirley Robertson, who co-presented with County Press audience and content editor Lucy Morgan. Cowes-based Shirley, 53, was the first British woman to win an Olympic gold medal at consecutive games in Sydney 2000 and in Athens 2004. No doubt a huge inspiration to many of those who appeared tonight. Among the highlights of this evening's Sporting Oscars was a special joint presentation of the Trustees Award for Outstanding Commitment to Sport to Gillian Burnett and Robin Courage from the Isle of Wight Sports Foundation, which organised tonight's event. Robin, a former Isle of Wight High Sheriff, received an MBE in 2010 for services to disability sport, while Gillian has been the backbone of the Isle of Wight Sports Foundation for more than 2 decades, dedicating a huge amount of her time to promoting sport on the island. Also among the 24 winners to collect their awards were the Isle of Wight Super Nines cricket team, who won the Disability Team Award, and disabled sailor Natasha Lambert in the Disability Senior category. The cricket team had an incredible 2021 season amid all the restrictions and problems associated with living through the pandemic. Forced to spend much of their playing time off the island so they could compete in the South East Super 9 League programme, beating teams from Dorset, Gloucestershire, Somerset and Wales along the way to take the South West Counties title and reach the regional final. Natasha, 23, of Northwood, born with quadriplegic cerebral palsy, continues to push new boundaries in the sport and was the first person ever to skipper a boat across the Atlantic Ocean using only sip and puff technology. Ever since the ice rink in Ryde shut in 2016, the sport of synchronised ice skating is a sport hardest hit on the island. So the presentation of the intermediate and junior team accolades to the White Crystals and White Sequins synchronised skate teams, respectively, were popular ones with the audience. White Crystals, who have had to train off-island, but did most of their training in living rooms during COVID, won a gold medal in the National Lee Valley Skate London competition, their first event after lockdown. Schools were recognised, Newport, C of E Primary and Ryde Academy, for the steps they have taken to develop sporting choice and inspire greater inclusion over the past 2 years. Coaches, volunteers and officials across a range of sports on the island were also recognised for their outstanding efforts.
Isle of Wight glyphosate weed killer use is mostly banned in Ventnor. A town council on the Isle of Wight has confirmed its intention to stamp out the use of controversial glyphosate weed killers. The chemical weed treatment has recently been reintroduced after island roads received hundreds of complaints last year about the number of weeds. The Highway Authority had stopped the use of glyphosates last summer, opting instead for organic herbicides and manual labour to remove the greenery, but after not being able to meet its contractual obligations, has reverted back to the chemical weed killer. While the makers of glyphosate say it is safe to use, there have been concerns and bans on the product in various parts of the world. The move to revert back to glyphosate has been met with backlash, including a petition signed by nearly 4,300 people, including wildlife television presenter Chris Packham, calling for the authority to think again. Glyphosate weed killer to be used again on island streets after complaints. Weed killer petition launched as council backs return for road and path safety. Thousands sign the anti-weed killer petition over the Isle of Wight plan. Concerns had been voiced over the welfare of the town's wall lizards if the chemical was reintroduced. So now Ventnor Town Council has agreed to immediately ban the use of glyphosates on 18 areas of non-ornamental greenland it owns. At its meeting last Monday, it also agreed to look at practical alternatives and costings for ornamental areas in the Cascades and Ventnor Park, where glyphosates will still be used in the flower beds. Following its meeting in March, the Town Council wrote a strongly worded message to the Isle of Wight Council and Island Roads, requesting a blanket ban of glyphosates in Ventnor and more generally across the island, but said it was told that would not happen. Speaking at the meeting, Ventnor Mayor Councillor Steve Cockett said the Town Council was not in a position to make a definitive decision on the safety of glyphosates, but recognised there was significant controversy surrounding them. Councillor Cockett said there was no simple, straightforward, like-for-like replacement, as they are so effective and cost-efficient that removing their use would be at a cost or difference in quality in weed removals. There was also a reputational risk to the council, Councillor Cockett said, as there was an overwhelming feeling the public did not want the chemical weed killers.
Easter rubbish collections and recycling on the Isle of Wight. Household waste and recycling collection will continue as normal over the long Easter weekend, with collections on Good Friday and Easter Monday. The bulky waste and free reuse collection services are also available over this period. The household waste and recycling centres at Linbottom and Afton Marsh will also be operating normal hours, but booking is essential beforehand. A spokesperson from Isle of Wight Council said, "Please do not arrive before your booking, as you will be turned away and asked to return at your allotted time."
At least 2 vehicles in Wootton were targeted by vandals early on Monday morning, April the 11th. A red Ford parked on Church Road was damaged at 1:25 a.m, and another vehicle parked in a car park off Church Close has also been damaged. Both incidents are said to have taken place in the early hours. Police have been alerted and treating the vandalism as a criminal damage incident. A spokesperson for Hampshire Constabulary said a car window was smashed and other vehicles were said to be damaged on the same road.
Isle of Wight's East Cowes is Environment Agency water quality site. After seasons of asking, East Cowes Esplanade on the Isle of Wight has been added to bathing water sites monitored by the Environment Agency. Its new status means the Environment Agency will now regularly take samples to assess water quality and whether action is needed to cut bacteria levels. Monitoring will begin on May the 15th, officially the beginning of the bathing water season. The results will be used to classify the bathing waters in the autumn. The Pebble Beach has become increasingly popular with swimmers and families, and a group called the Shrape Swimmers regularly takes to the water there. From next month, like other sites around the island, including nearby Cowes and Gurnard, water quality will be monitored from May until September the 30th. There had been calls to extend the water quality monitoring season to all year round, but this will not happen. In 2021, it emerged Cowes and Gurnard had recorded the most storm discharges in the UK. In that time, Gurnard had 321 discharges, the highest incident of sewage discharge in the UK, according to Surfers Against Sewage, and it was closely followed by Cowes with 318 discharges. Despite that, in January this year, DEFRA found there had actually been an improvement in the bathing water quality at Gurnard. After record fines and criticism, Southern Water is making the Isle of Wight a trial zone for reducing the amount of sewage dumped into our waters by 80% by tackling what goes through the Sandown Waste Treatment Works, which handles about 90% of the island's wastewater. Water firm promises end to Isle of Wight sewage misery. For the new listing for East Cowes, a public consultation ran from February 9th to March the 2nd. There were 132 responses, of which 131 supported the proposed designation, DEFRA said. As well as East Cowes Esplanade, a river in Oxford will also be monitored for the first time. Environment Minister Rebecca Powell said the residents of Oxford and the Isle of Wight have shown their overwhelming approval for these sites as places to enjoy and connect with nature, so I am pleased to see these locations receiving designated bathing water status.
Historic England has submitted its initial response to plans to redevelop Norris Castle and its estate in East Cowes, saying it strongly objects. The organisation says the scheme would severely impact the Grade 1 listed castle and its estate, bordering Osborne on one side and Spring Hill on the other, and running down to the Esplanade. A formal response from Historic England will be delivered before plans for the estate are considered by the Isle of Wight Council. Historic England has described the castle, used by Queen Victoria and Kaiser Wilhelm, as of outstanding importance, set in particularly beautiful and unusually well-preserved, picturesque ensemble of house, landscape and ancillary buildings. The plan is to convert the castle into a luxury hotel, its fortified farm into a spa, and to add houses in the grounds and on land between the estate and Spring Hill. Its potential developers, the Norris Castle Estate Group, argue the plan is the only viable option for conserving the estate as a whole. The castle, estate and other listed buildings are in a state of disrepair after decades of neglect as a private residence, and developers say they have worked to limit further deterioration. All three of the estate's Grade 1 listed assets are now on Historic England's Heritage at Risk register because of urgent need for repair. Earlier this month, East Cowes Town Council branded the scheme a millionaire's playground and unanimously voted to object the proposal for a luxury 5-star hotel, housing and retirement village.
An Isle of Wight man to stand trial over a stab threat outside a pub. A Sandown man will stand trial later this month, accused of being in possession of a knife and saying he was going to stab someone. Jordan Gammon of Fort Street appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates on Tuesday, April the 12th. The 24-year-old denied possession of a knife in a public place in Sandown on August 26, 2021. He is also charged with using threatening, abusive or insulting words and behaviour with intent to cause fear of or provoke unlawful violence and common assault on the same date. Mr. Gammon is alleged to have produced a knife from his waistband outside the Tap public house on Avenue Road and to have told a staff member he was going to stab somebody. The court heard Gammon denied the charge outright and challenged the witness's account. His case was adjourned for a trial on June the 9th at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court. He was granted unconditional bail.
How many e-scooter accidents have there been on the Isle of Wight? New research has found that there has been one accident for every 3,460 e-scooter rides on the island. The personal injury team at national law firm Simpson Miller determined how many registered rides have led to accidents on the island. Since the island e-scooter trial began in November 2020, there have been nearly 90,000 rides registered, with 24 accidents reported. E-scooters available for rent across the island typically have a maximum speed of 15.5 miles per hour and can be hired by those with a provisional driving licence, meaning riders must be aged at least 15 years and 9 months. Rented e-scooters can be used on roads and cycle lanes, but not on pavements. Helmets are encouraged, but not legally required when riding. Phil Ellis, who's Beryl CEO, said, "Since its launch in November 2020, our Department for Transport sanctioned e-scooter scheme has had a significant positive impact on the island, with over 88,000 journeys being made, equating to a saving of over 15 tonnes of carbon dioxide. Safety is paramount, and we constantly review our schemes and processes to ensure they are being delivered as effectively as possible. We offer users online and in-person e-scooter safety sessions, deliver appropriate in-app, leaflet and on-vehicle messaging, work with local police to record all incidents of misuse, and take action against repeat offenders. Recent government data reveals there were 882 accidents involving e-scooters, both rented and privately owned, across the whole UK between June 2020 and June 2021. In this period, there were 931 casualties, 253 were seriously injured, and 3 e-scooter users were killed.
Hedges Restored in Calbourne project. A project to restore historic hedges in Calbourne has taken a step forward with the aid of enthusiastic villagers keen to offset their carbon footprint and get involved in some hands-on conservation work. The hedgerows at Gottenlees Farm had become over-mature and needed gapping up with additional planting of native species to restore them as historic landscape features and important wildlife corridors. Part funded by the government's Farming in Protected Landscapes initiative, administered through the island's Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty, the planting was organised by landowners and farmers. Sam and Fiona Biles, whose family have farmed the land for around 90 years, the scheme encourages community participation, and villagers welcome the opportunity to become involved and raise donations for the village church and the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebration funds. Guided by Tony Ridd of Landscape Therapy, who supplied the hedge plants, the planting also ticked a box for the Green Church initiative and for the Queen's Green Canopy. Tea and cake were provided and enjoyed by the team in the spring sunshine on the 2 planting days. Further planting is to take place at the farm over the next 2 winters.
The NHS Trust wins an award for cutting the backlog. The Isle of Wight NHS Trust, in partnership with Medifer, has won an award for the Best Elective Care Recovery Initiative at this year's Health Service Journal Partnership Awards for a programme to cut outpatient backlogs after COVID. On announcing the winners, the judging panel commented, "This was an extremely ambitious, system-wide initiative that was delivered at pace. There were demonstrable outcomes in terms of reduced waiting lists, changing behaviour and culture, and working across the healthcare system. The judges remarked on the positive element of GP education and the improvement and quality of referrals. It was clear that patient experience improved and is at the centre of the ambition, ensuring no patients were digitally disadvantaged and demonstrated drive for equality of care." Chief Operating Officer Joe Smythe said, "We are delighted to have won this award with our partners Medifer for our elective recovery programme. Together we have worked hard to reduce the waiting times for our patients across our island community, and I am proud of what we have been able to achieve, despite the additional challenges we have experienced from COVID. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our staff who worked so hard to deliver this fantastic achievement."
The Isle of Wight Coastal Path, a mission for pancreatic cancer. Have you spotted Karen Butler walking the island's coastal paths? She is raising awareness and funds for research into pancreatic cancer after losing her beloved long-term partner to the silent killer. Mary Saywood died at the Mountbatten Hospice in May 2021 at the age of 75. The couple were just starting a new adventure, having lived in the Chilterns for 26 years by buying a Victorian farmhouse in Northamptonshire in July 2020. They put all their possessions into storage and moved into their holiday flat of 12 years in Freshwater Bay. Shortly afterwards, Mary was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and died just months later. Karen, 69, was left devastated. Against all the odds, she got the farmhouse renovated, has put it on the market, and is focusing her efforts on fundraising. She said, "I could never have lived there without Mary. It was our dream. When she died, she asked me to make it beautiful, and I hope I have." She is still living in Freshwater, but is planning to move to Buckinghamshire. The couple were together for 32 years and held a civil partnership ceremony at Farringford in 2006. Karen has raised around £3,000 from her island coastal walk, and there have been other fundraisers, including a half marathon by her goddaughter Rachel Coates, which raised £2,000. Karen said, "When the consultant surgeon tells you there is nothing more to be done, that you have between a week to 10 days to live, and in the last 40 years there has been little or no advance in knowing about pancreatic cancer, it's just not good enough in 2022. We all know about breast cancer and prostate cancer, but pancreatic cancer is a silent, sly killer. If we are to get on top of this pernicious disease that robbed us all of the precious life of Mary, and that is threatening the lives of others who are dear to us, we need to raise money." Karen has placed a memorial bench in honour of Mary at Freshwater Bay, with the support of Councillor John Medland and Freshwater Bay House Hotel.
Firefighters from across the island were called out to tackle two blazes last Friday evening. A caravan at Parkdean Resorts, the Landguard Holiday Park in Shanklin, was totally destroyed by a fire around 9 p.m. Firefighters from Sandown, Shanklin, Ryde and Ventnor were called to extinguish the blaze, with crews accessing the fire from behind the park via Whitecross Lane. The caravan was being used to house chicken incubators. None of the baby chicks were able to be saved, and a nearby jeep was badly scorched by the fire, but it is not being treated as suspicious. Earlier, crews from Freshwater, Newport and Ventnor dealt with a large outdoor fire near Bryston. It is believed to have started from a bonfire spreading out of control. 3 pumps plus 2 water carriers dealt with the blaze, with main jets stopping it spreading and eventually extinguishing the fire. So it's goodbye from Kate.
And it's goodbye from Lynn. And the In Touch programme follows. Wellness. Breathe in and out. Namaste. With the global mental wellness market reaching around $120 billion in recent years, here lies the truth that in the West, many are finding the daily incorporation of mindfulness techniques highly beneficial to reduce stress and to become more present in daily life. With its ever-growing popularity, we wanted to hear from visually impaired people who are making a living within this industry. We speak to yoga instructor Claire Miller. We put Peter into the healing hands of Nick Mulrion, who performs a Reiki session on him. And we speak to Mark Norton, who demonstrates his work in the area of sound healing. We also explore how viable the wellness industry is as a career for people with visual impairments. The presenter is Peter White, the producer will be Beth Hemmings, and the production coordinator is Liz Poole.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Namaste. The concepts of mindfulness and wellness have been around in various forms for much of human history. People have been practising mindfulness and yoga for thousands of years, particularly in the East. Over the past few decades, it's become increasingly fashionable here in the West as well. And perhaps inevitably for the West, alongside its spiritual element, it's also become an increasingly lucrative business, which means it's also leading to jobs, not least for a growing number of visually impaired people. So tonight we're looking into how viable this is as a career for blind and partially sighted people. We've been hearing from some of those making a successful career in wellness, in practices ranging from yoga and sound healing to Reiki.
So there's 7 major chakras of the body, so your crown, you've got your third eye, your throat, your heart.
That's Nick Mulryan. He is the founder and lead therapist at the #1 pain relief clinic based in Buxton in Derbyshire. Nick is a multidiscipline therapist, trained in sports therapy, acupuncture, massage and something called Reiki, which is a Japanese form of energy healing. Practitioners use a technique called palm healing, which its exponents believe encourages emotional or physical healing. As you'll discover shortly, rather surprisingly for a business dedicated to relaxing its clients, Nick shares his workspace with a gym, which accompanies its workouts with equally energetic rock music.
Some people just feel like a deep type of relaxation, but from a medical point of view, Reiki can actually help reduce heart rate, induce relaxation and promote just general well-being. There's a pillow here, that's for your knees to go over. Now you might find this is really wacky. So I use the pendulum, and what that does is floats up above you, and if anything is quite activated or hyper, then it sets the pendulum going off.
I can feel the heat from somewhere, but I'm not aware of the pendulum.
Well, it's spinning above your head quite quickly. I don't want to go too low because I don't want to hit you in the face with it, because I'm visually impaired as well. so
I'll let you know if you hit me in the face.
Yeah. Now what I'm combining here, Peter, is a little bit of shiatsu. Sometimes you just integrate other therapies in there. Got one hand on the left side pointing up and one hand going down. Energy flows in a certain particular path. So we'll say that disease always enters through the liver and goes out through the spleen. So from a medical point of view, the liver will be on the right and then on the left will be the spleen. And as I'm using my hands on Peter, I'm actually visualising where the energy is going up and round his body. Tincture bells is kind of a bit more like the sound therapy. It's kind of more like clearing energy, and they're Tibetan bells. Because if you imagine you've had an hour of Reiki, or if you had 30 minutes of it, it brings the patient round as well that the treatment's coming to an end.
I feel pretty relaxed. The rock music from next door isn't helping very much. I can't claim to completely understand what Nick was doing, but I feel calm and peaceful.
So how I got into Reiki was during an exam. I was doing an Indian head massage exam. Whilst massaging the lady, she just burst into tears. Once I spoke to the lady afterwards, and she said he just released an awful lot of stress, which I found that very intriguing. And one of the lecturers said, have you ever learnt about Reiki, which also helps work on an emotional level? So I decided then to learn a particular Reiki, and what made me more aware about how useful it can be was when I was working in palliative care, because the Macmillan nurses were doing it. Some cancer patients felt it helped them quite a lot, and there was a gentleman there who was terminally at the end of life, and rather than asking for the vicar, he asked for the Reiki practitioner. Well, and I thought, what? My God, there's something in this,
Yours is a pain relief clinic. I mean, can this specifically relieve pain? Are you claiming it can relieve pain in ways in which conventional or traditional medicine can't?
In conjunction with conventional medicine, it can help, particularly those individuals that have got chronic conditions in particular. they've been given a recent diagnosis, it can help come to terms with it, so to speak. We're not counsellors or anything like that, but it just sometimes just makes them more aware of the body.
Do you think your lack of sight gives you some advantages, some reasons why you might be particularly successful at it?
I believe that we're not better than our sighted peers, but we become more aware of our senses because we're not distracted. One of my colleagues at university said, when I do a massage, Nicholas, to feel a tissue, I look up at the ceiling. He said, what do you do? I said, I look at the skin as well.
Do you think some people are resistant to it?
Some people might be. I mean, it's a bit like acupuncture, for example. Some people will tell you it's the best thing since sliced bread, where others say, no, it didn't do anything for me. Particularly my patients are sceptic. I just tell them the truth about it, what it does, what it helps, and what it doesn't actually do. When we are doing anything holistic, obviously we're looking at the whole self as a person, and also our aim is generally just to make people healthier and happier, but it shouldn't be claimed as a cure, by no means.
That was Nick Mulryan. Now, even those not well versed in relaxation techniques have a nodding acquaintance with yoga positions such as downward facing dog and saluting the sun. Claire Miller is a qualified yoga instructor based in London, where she teaches classes online and in person.
For me, the yoga, as practicing yoga, came first. Then I lost my vision partially in one eye. Then I qualified to be a yoga teacher whilst I had the visual impairment, and that led me then to teaching visually impaired people.
I think you actually had a potentially rather embarrassing situation, again, which sort of prompted you to think, actually, there might be quite a lot of people doing this.
I did, yes. When I first started this, I was teaching a group of mainly blind, a couple of visually impaired people, in fact, one person with better eyesight than I have. And I made the error to say, close your eyes, because obviously that's what I say in a yoga class. One of the students said, it's okay, Claire, I don't need to close my eyes, I'm blind. Fortunately, everybody laughed.
What difference is there in teaching a blind person or someone with only a little sight yoga? I mean, how have you adapted your own teaching technique?
If you're in a class environment and somebody is looking directly at you, you have a certain amount of the use of your own body that will help a person to understand what you're doing. And particularly when you've got a blind or visually impaired person, you have to get your cues of what you're talking people into really, really precise.
Coming into your child's pose. So from your all fours position with your hands under your shoulders and your knees under your hips, take your weight back so your bottom comes back towards your feet. We're going to take the knees nice and wide. We're going to stretch the arms forward and then gently take the head down towards the floor. This is our child's pose. We start to take some nice big inhales and nice big exhales.
And how do you know if they're doing it right?
Well, yeah, generally, because I have one good eye, if they're happy for me to look at them, then I can cue them by looking at them. If you've got somebody online, whether sighted or not sighted, if they choose not to have their camera on or choose not to speak to you, there is no way of checking what they're doing. But generally, if you've employed a teacher to teach you something, you generally want to do it as best as you can. So yeah, it does involve the person on the other end.
I'm assuming that you still prefer to do this, face to face with a live group in a live room, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. But to be honest, I think online now is such a good format. It's so accessible for everyone. It means you can expand your teaching out to wherever your client is. And particularly as well, I think if you've got somebody who has a visual impairment who doesn't feel comfortable to go somewhere for a class, it means they can get what they need on the end of their device.
Have you had some triumphs with people who perhaps thought they couldn't do it or thought that it just wasn't for them or that they would have trouble doing it as a blind person?
Absolutely. Metro Blind Sport is another lovely charity, and I've got some stuff online for Metro Blind Sport that anyone can access. And I know they've had lots of hits on. There's little short classes, seated yoga and more active yoga. And I think it's made a lot of difference to a lot of people.
And what do you think people gain from it?
I think sometimes it's just you're able to do something that maybe you thought you couldn't. So it's good for your self-esteem. Yeah, it's just, and it's good to connect with people. Multi-benefited, I think.
Claire Miller. Well, we've heard there from a couple of the visually impaired people already making a good career in different branches of wellness. But if you're interested in pursuing a career in this area, where do you begin? Well, the Royal National College in Hereford offers its students a range of courses within wellness. Lecturer in sports massage, anatomy and physiology, Jim Wallace, explained some of the things on their timetable.
We offer, obviously, a holistic massage, which is the nice, full-body, relaxing massage. And then we offer sports massage as well. Reflexology, which is the treatment of the whole body through the feet. Indian head massage. And we do aromatherapy.
And I mean, are you finding that these kinds of courses are proving quite popular?
Yeah. Obviously, since the cut in funding for adult learners, we've only got young learners at the moment. But we do have a good intake of students come to do this. And I mean, a lot of it, it's all really based for them to go self-employed after the college.
Do you think visually impaired people, perhaps have particular abilities and attributes, that make this particularly suitable, this area, to go into professionally?
I think so, yeah. I mean, when anyone gets taught how to massage, we all try and shut our eyes. It's part of the way to feel different parts of the body. So you're more in tune with your clients. And I think that being visually impaired or blind, the students have this straight away, this natural ability.
In the past, a lot of visually impaired people have gone into physiotherapy, and that's become more difficult of late for various people. Are you finding perhaps more visually impaired people are now leaning towards these kind of wider areas of wellness?
We have got a number of students who have left and have gone on to other therapies. So we've got one who does Thai yoga, one who does Reiki, as well as equine massage as well. So we try and get visiting lecturers in. So we have someone who came in and did a sound bath therapy with the students. So we try and promote the other therapies. But I think some are moving away. We have a couple in the Isle of Wight who are doing a lot of Reiki.
And these are people who are doing it professionally, yeah?
Yeah, they run their own business. They're self-employed.
You mentioned the fact that funding had now been withdrawn for further education courses, because in the past you were able to often train people who were older, who perhaps wanted to retrain or who'd lost their sight relatively recently. How hopeful are you that you'll be able to restart doing that kind of thing?
I mean, if they brought the funding in, it'd be amazing. The adult learners really did progress really well with the massage. Our last adult learner was Dan Pembroke, who won a gold at the Paralympics for javelin. He's up his own clinic in Hereford again now, so he's actually working as well. I mean, if the funding came for the adults, it would be a great asset to the college, but also for the industry as well.
So my name's Mark Norton. I'm a qualified sound therapist. I specifically have qualified in sound therapy for groups, holding a sound bath, and I take them on a journey of healing sounds. I'd like to just invite you to just set an intention for anything you would like the sounds to support you with.
Shanti, Shanti.
Shanti. It's very much used in a well-being sense. A lot of people are living very, very busy, fast-paced lives. So it really gives them an opportunity to just have that special relaxing time for themselves, supported by these instruments that I use.
I'm feeling very relaxed, I have to admit, and I'm not just saying that. How would you describe the benefits of it?
So at the beginning of the session, I asked you, Peter, to set an intention. There's a phrase in sound therapy that is intention plus frequency equals healing. It has been scientifically proven that the cells in our body very much react to sound vibration. So, for example, I was using the crystal bowls earlier. So each crystal bowl is a different note. So if you play C and G, that is known as a perfect fifth, and that can have a very rejuvenating effect on the body.
Can I ask you just a bit about yourself? How did you get into all of this in the first place?
My parents joined the Hare Krishna movement when I was a baby. We had moved to India to live in a Hare Krishna temple in a very remote village. And I've had issues with my sight since I was very small. My sight got a lot worse when I turned 16, 17 years old. I used to find as a child that I spent a lot of time internal in a way, and I was very affected by sounds. And then that led on. I discovered a sound healing course from the Sound Healing Academy, and that just really opened everything up for me.
I know you do quite a lot of sound baths with visually impaired people, and I wonder how we react when you perform sound baths with us.
What I have found with people who are visually impaired, they are able to go deep into the sounds very quickly. My feeling is because there's already less visual interference taking place, so
distraction.
Yes, in a way. And when I experience sound baths, I find that I can go very deep into the auditory experience very quickly.
Is there an element of having to believe that this kind of thing actually works to feel the benefits? Because I mean, some people, as you know, may be very sceptical about this kind of thing, and I'm wondering how much you need to believe in it.
I personally don't feel there needs to be a belief in it. I would never say to someone, sound therapy will do this or will do that. The only thing required is to be open to the possibility that it could be a powerful experience or a pleasant experience.
Mark Norton, hopefully leaving you almost as relaxed as me. That's it for today. From me, Peter Wight, producer Beth Hemmings, and studio managers Sue Stone Street and Simon Highfield, goodbye.
Vectis Radio, FM 104.6, the heart of the island's community.
But we've got guests in already, haven't we, Maggie?
We have the lovely Chris Kane, and he's brought the lovely Lisa Hollyhead with him.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon. Now, you are from Sight for Wight.
Yes.
And you've got some great news to tell us, haven't you?
We have indeed. We have been awarded the Isle of Wight sensory contract from the Isle of Wight Council, which means that under our new name of Wight Sense, we will be looking after people with both hearing and sight loss.
Oh.
So Wight Sense, is that now the whole organisation, or is that the sort of the sensory bit?
That's just the sensory bit. Sight for Wight hasn't changed. Sight for Wight is still a charity looking after the visually impaired of the Isle of Wight.
So, but you're running this contract, which, when did it start? Not that long ago, was it?
It started on the 1st of April, but it was no fool.
No, and that's good. So what sort of services are you now offering through that contract?
So basically, people living with either a sight or hearing impairment can come to Wight Sense on a one-to-one basis. We'll then visit your home, assess your needs, look at what equipment we can loan you, look at who we can also refer you to, and basically put a plan together just for you as an individual. And then we'll follow that plan through and make sure that all the things that we've said will happen will actually happen.
Wow,
that's good. So it's things like for hearing or sight impaired people, smoke alarms, security devices, help to listen to TV, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So for the hearing impaired, things obviously flash. So it's flashing doorbells, flashing phones, and then listening devices so that you can plug it into the television and you can wear earphones so that you can have it louder than other people in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then for sight impaired people, it's things like a liquid level indicator, which is a little piece that you put on the top of a cup, and when the liquid gets to a certain level it beeps, so if you're making a cup of tea you know when to stop pouring.
Wow.
Better than sticking your finger in it.
Well, yeah, especially in the boiling kettle.
Well, that's the point, yes.
So would you have referrals to people like who have hearing dogs?
Absolutely. So we can refer to anybody we want.
Okay.
And anybody who wants to come to us doesn't have to come through a doctor or anything. They can just come straight to us.
Okay.
We'll then assess you. So, for example, if you have a hearing problem that's sort of suddenly come on, the first thing we would do is make sure that medically it's not a blockage or it's not an infection. So we would ask you to visit your GP just to make sure it's not something that could be immediately cured with medical intervention.
That makes sense.
Absolutely. And with your sight, you don't have to have a certain level of sight loss at all. You just need to not be able to cope with what you want to do. So you've got what they call failing sight.
Yeah.
But then again, we might ask you to go to your consultant and actually get a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And that's simply so that we can offer you the right help, and then it will give us an idea of how your sight loss may or may not progress.
Yes.
Okay, and if you are already a user of some of this adaptive equipment, you might have a hearing aid, you might have a vibrating alarm, you can come back and get it serviced or replaced if it goes wrong. Is that the sort of thing you do?
We do offer a service, but once we've loaned you the equipment, then it usually is that any repairs or service would become chargeable.
Okay.
But the initial equipment is loaned out as long as you need it free.
Okay.
That's good.
That's good.
So where would people go to Millbrook House, is it?
They can come to Millbrook House Monday to Friday 9 to 5, or they can give us a call on 240222, and we will be able to help. Say you don't need any special forms, any special referrals, just get in touch with us.
So would you want people to make an appointment to come and see you, or just drop in?
You can drop in, not a problem. There's always somebody at Millbrook.
Okay. Now Millbrook House, in case you're not clear on where that is, it is in Carrisbrook, but the entrance is the other road, isn't it?
Castle Road, yes.
Castle Road, yeah. And but there is a doorway in the main Carrisbrook Road, but you can't find it if you know what you're doing half the time. It's a lovely old building, though.
It is.
Yeah. So people could just drop in, sorts of that. But if you would refer them back to their GP if they just think they've got an issue, make sure that it's medically sorted out first.
Absolutely, because if it is, for example, a blockage just through but if it's a blockage because of an infection, then obviously you want that treated as quickly as possible.
Yes.
and as effectively as possible. You don't want it to linger.
No.
But you don't, as I say, once we've sort of passed that first medical stage, you don't need to be completely deaf. You don't need to be completely blind. You just need to have what they call failing sight or failing hearing.
Okay, so if you've got people who are already using the service before it came to you, will they have similar staff? Yeah.
It's exactly the same staff.
Yeah.
All of the staff have come over from they used to work for the RNID because they used to have the sensory contract.
Yes.
Now Sight for Wight have got the sensory contract, but it is the same people. But we have added to the team as well.
Yeah.
We've got Karen, who is an old employee of ours. She's gone over to Wight Sense as well to help people on the vision side.
Okay.
And we've got Paula, who helps people on the hearing side. And we've got another Karen, which is, a constant cause of confusion.
Karen 1 and Karen 2.
Different spelling. So
it's Caron and Karen. But
all right.
Now, for example, the sensory service previously would provide hearing aid batteries for hearing aid users. Is that still going to continue as it was before?
That service continues with the RNID at their old premises on Riverway.
Right.
So that element of the hearing aid repair and the hearing aid cleaning is still where it always was on Riverway.
So, we'll see what happens with that when they eventually do whatever they're going to do over there, I suppose.
I suppose at the moment they're definitely there for the next year.
Okay, that's fine. It's worth knowing. Okay, so 240222, did you say?
Absolutely.
It was? Well, it's going to be hard for me to remember because of our own number. And have you got a website specifically for the sensory service?
We have. It's www.wight, as in obviously the Isle of Wight, wightsense.org.uk.
wightsense.org.uk, and you can find everything you need to know there.
Yes, the site is at the moment literally going live any day now.
Oh, yes,
it's got some basic information on it.
Yeah, of course.
But
it's got all the right Bobby approvals and everything else.
Absolutely.
Yes,
it's getting titivated.
Yes.
But as I say, give us a call, 240-222.
Okay, so that's Wight Sense. We've got Sight for Wight, Chris, will continue doing the usual things it always do.
Yeah, we haven't changed in that respect.
Yeah, you're going to have all the usual trips out and
activities
and stuff. Activities. So that's you just enhanced all your services then, really.
Yes, we have.
Absolutely. We've added to it because what previously happened was people went from a visual impairment point of view to have their assessment with the RNID. And now they're just going to come to us to have that first assessment.
Okay.
But we're also very pleased to welcome the hearing impaired people as well, because a lot of people, particularly those with age-related conditions, do have both a hearing and a sight impairment.
Yeah.
So it's great that we will now have the knowledge to help all across in a full holistic approach.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that.
I'm always hearing that. It's age-related.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
yeah.
thanks. Yes.
Yeah, thanks very much. No, that's good to know. So 240222 for Wight Sense. What's the number for Sight for Wight, Chris?
52205.
52205 for all the other things that Sight for Wight have always offered.
And it's all at Millbrook House.
All at Millbrook
House. And that's so easy to get to. And there's parking there.
And there's parking.
Lovely. Thank you very much, both.
Your support matters. We operate thanks to the support of local businesses. If you would like to advertise on Vectis Radio, FM 104.6, contact our team today. Marketing@vectisradio.fm.